recording. All right, perfect. And just to be clear that everybody's here, this is a training on agency building, not on selling insurance. For those of you who are brand new to the business, this may not be relevant to you. You're welcome to stay. But this is really designed, this particular training, for the people who are interested in some kind of effort to recruit agents, to build an agency, and to profit from the agent's actions, meaning writing business. And if that is you, then you are at the right training. Of course, a little bit about me, if you don't know who I am. I'm David DeFord. I've been in the insurance business since 2011. I've built agencies, my own, since 2013. Most of that has been recruiting agents to buy leads and operate in the final expense market. We've delved at times into other product lines like Medicare, ACA, and annuities. And currently now our primary focus in agency building is recruiting people to sell using our free lead system. We've been doing this approximately, the free lead system, a little bit more in a year, and then the agency or just recruiting brokers since about 2013. So there's a ton of things to know about doing the agency building business right. And there's so much I could talk about. I've even thought about hosting seminars on it, multi-day seminars, because there's so much to know. But in the interest of time and what's most important, I'm going to hone it down. I was thinking, like, what are like three really important things that agents who are thinking about getting into the agency building already are and are looking for some tips? Like, what's the most impactful things that I can share that I've learned, especially over the last year, operating a free lead model, and then beyond that, of course, in its entirety. So that's what we're going to focus on in this call, which is what I would say the three most important things that you need to know as an agency builder about what to do in order to be successful, and most importantly, not make the costly mistakes like I did along the way, which is normally you're going to do all that. So also, if you have questions, I have everybody on mute. So if you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can throw your question in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to address your question there when there is a moment to do it. Okay, we good to go, everybody? Sound good? Okay, cool. I think this thing will take maybe about an hour, although I'm known to drone on a lot with lots of hopefully good information. So it might go a little bit longer than that. But like I said, I'm saving this to distribute after the recording. So if you want to go back and watch this later, cool with me. All right. So again, we're going to talk about three things. And I got this new like cool overhead camera set up so I can write notes and kind of bullet point things. So I'm going to be using that. So hopefully it's useful to you as we get going here. So, okay. So let's just jump right in. So again, there's lots to talk about when it comes to running a successful agency. And I like these trainings to be impactful, specific, and tactful. What I mean by this is there's a lot of training out there that it's like good surface level stuff, but it doesn't get specific. I'm going to try to give you stuff that's actionable, that if you're again thinking about running an agency, already are, you can kind of see the value and use it right away. So one of the most important things as we get started here is product selection. Okay. So again, when we're talking about selling final expense successfully or any life insurance, and we're going to kind of stick to that section of the insurance niches that are out there, although there are a lot of options out there. So, you know, you can, a lot of this stuff will apply, but a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is specific to what I know. Okay. Just keep that in mind. So as we get started here, product selection is so important when it comes to running your agency and doing it successfully. Okay. So what do I mean by product selection? Well, as an agency owner, not all insurance products are the same when it comes to the impact on the profitability of the company and really to the quality of the product. And if you're not careful and you think with the wrong mindset, maybe even one more akin to a broker's mindset, somebody who buys leads and just operates just for their own personal production, you may miss opportunities to maximize the profit of your insurance agency. Okay. And so let me kind of go into some of the problems we encountered with product selection and how making bad decisions around products cost us, in this case, our free lead agency, a lot of potential profit and was not a good idea. So one of the things that I have discovered that really moves the needle when it comes to having poor performance is the writing of what's called guaranteed issue business. Okay. And again, I'm speaking of final expense. So if you don't know what guaranteed issue business is, basically, guaranteed issue means no questions asked life insurance. People who qualify for this can't qualify for full coverage. And it seemingly is a good option to have on the surface if all other options fail. But what invariably happens, and what's been interesting, is we've watched the quality of business numbers, how many people keep the policies that are sold to them. What we see time and time again is this guaranteed issue business is routinely some of the worst, lowest quality business that ever is written, and incidentally doesn't make much money for that matter anyway. So let me go into some detail. So one of the things you have to measure as an agency is your persistency. This is a rough measurement of how much business actually makes it to the first year in payments, right? People pay monthly. With American, about said the company, American General, I'll say it outside, American General GI is who we used, but this is true for other GI as well. Our persistency with these companies is well below what we would see with level coverage options. So, for example, one of those companies had a persistency of 65% first year. And this is active efforts to try to save and retain the business. And then in the second year was closer to 50%, like terrible, like embarrassingly low. But what we've ascertained is part of the reason this is like this is because the type of person that qualifies for guaranteed issue that can't qualify for anything else, typically they're not as sold seemingly on keeping the business over the long haul. The other problem with a lot of these companies is that if the client dies in the first 2 years, you get a full chargeback. So there's more roll-up debt that you have to worry about. You see, when you recruit agents, if you don't know this, you are co-signing the debt on the advances. And so if you're on the hook for the next 2 years, if they die, and by default, people go in the guaranteed issue typically are very unhealthy. It doesn't bode well for the actual profitability of the product. And then the other side of it is a lot of these guaranteed issue products just simply don't have a lot of commission built into them, and they don't have a lot of renewals, if any at all. And again, one of the things, the takeaways that you want to understand here is that if you're going to sell and build an agency, it's important, especially in the life insurance side, to not just think about how much money you're going to make up front. That's important. But also, what are you going to make years 2 through 10 of the policy sale? In other words, your renewals. So it's vital that you pick products that allow you to build good first year income and renewal base. But a lot of the guaranteed issue business, because of how poor its persistency is, as well as many of them just don't have renewals because they can't be designed that way because of how poor quality the business is. It's just, they don't yield very good fruits. And so what we've done as a strategy is, because they're low lifetime value, they don't profit to the company very well, and because there's just a lot of problems with it, we've all but eliminated the ability to write guaranteed issue. Now, we still have an option. We phased out a lot of the direct ability to write it once we realized and look at the numbers and how bad everything was. But now what we do is focus on, for the most part, level coverage. When we can, if they can't get with level, then we try to write it with a modified or a graded product that pays very well, justifies our investment in the leads. Again, we're carrying the cost on the free lead model, so we have to have products that have margin in them. And then if it's just somebody who is so unhealthy, we just don't write it, and we bypass the persistency issues, the admin burden, all of that stuff, which is a giant frustration point. Okay. So why does this matter to you? Whether you're and even if you're in a position to where you just have a couple of agents, or you're aspiring to grow a large agency, the products you select really matter. Your agents generally will write the products that you allow them or give them or instruct them to write. And if you give them products that are poor performers, that don't have margin built in them, you're sacrificing a lot of the effort and the money you invest in building your business on the front end for very little on the back end, and just building up a lot of admin and frustration. Does that make sense? Some other issues too that come with product selection. Again, this is vital for final expense, is billing. Okay. So for those of you interested in final expense, it's really important to have carriers that do what's called Social Security deposit billing. Okay. So in case you aren't in final expense, Social Security deposit billing essentially is when somebody is billed on the basis of when their deposit hits the bank account. This is important because Mildred might get paid on a Friday, and your draft may be set up to come out Saturday, but if it's set up numerically, usually they can't be set up to be drafted before the date, only on or after the date. So you won't draft until Monday, and then our client has the full weekend, I used to say all the time, to blow their money on smokes and booze, right? And then if you draft several days late, you're in a position where the money might not be there. And it's just a consequence of working the final expense market. Our clients aren't very good with money. If they were, they probably would have had life insurance many years earlier in their life, and we wouldn't be selling them. So this is important to pick and select carriers that manage and mitigate the risk that you might miss collecting the payment. So the carriers that you want to have as your primary lineup are the ones that are very effective at grabbing the money on the specific date that the client gets his or her disability or Social Security check. And you want to be first in line to grab it, because many times the clients have other bills that are coming out that you have to compete with as well. So timing is critical. And I've had carriers tell me, and the agencies that have initiated Social Security deposit billing, to that they've seen persistency, meaning how much business sticks, increase between 5 and 10%, which is on the back end model. If you're building a renewal stream, it's so vital to have that business stay that otherwise, wouldn't have to lapse, right? So very important, very good, and a good thing here. Let me get the focus in here a little bit here. Okay, there we go. That's right. Okay. So Social Security billing is very important. Any questions on product selection, billing, as it relates to selecting carriers? I'd be happy to entertain questions. If you want to raise your hand, throw your questions in the chat as it relates to this. Happy to go into more depth on this. Trying to think of anything else that's important. There's a lot of things that are important, but that's kind of the first things that come to mind. And again, how to find the carriers? Yes, through me. More on that in a moment. Of course, there's an offer at the end of this, so we'll go into that momentarily. So long story short, product selection, very important. If I had made this one decision as a company and we had focused in not writing guaranteed issue and worked, return a premium modified level business, my costs to market would have been a little bit higher, would have been the same as they were now, marketing the same amount, would have made less sales, or potentially, but the value of those sales would have been much higher longer term. And I probably would have netted more money at the end of the year this year than I already had by making these decisions. These are things that we've changed recently, which is why I'm sharing with you in the report. Okay. All right. So moving on here. Again, if you have questions that pop up, happy to address them. So let me change my page here. We're running out of page room. So next on the list here, lesson number 2 that I have really learned and have taken a lot of appreciation in is lead generation. So again, lead generation, of course, is vital to your success as an agent. And it's the same when you're running an agency as well. Without leads and without the right kind of leads, you don't have a business. Okay. So it's critical that you set up your lead generation strategy so it's designed to work regardless of the compliance environment, and really just ideally set it up in a way that gets the best results. Okay. Now I'll give you a couple of stories here. So I don't know, how many of you have heard about this one-to-one consent rule, this new stuff that's coming out? It's a pretty big deal. It's good because it eliminates a lot of the bogus lead generation. And I have seen several, I won't name names, but several very well-known insurance agencies and IMOs in our space that have been specifically using non-compliant strategies. It was compliant up to this point, but have otherwise shut down because of the way and strategy in which they were generating leads did not allow itself to be compliant. And they were just going to run the risk of getting clobbered with lawsuits if they were caught, which they eventually would be. And the carrier at one particular company, it said, was really behind shutting it down. And so this is a pretty big deal. You want to get this element right. And the good news is that you can get it right versus, what the other options are. But it's very, very important. Okay. So this is the rule of the land. And just in case anybody's wondering, the one-to-one consent rule, the TCPA, Telecommunications Protection Act, basically, helping us not have to deal with so much spam on our phone, right? Is passing a law. It's like any time now, if not already passed. And essentially it says that in order to contact a lead, you have to have or in order to contact a lead with a power dialer or automated technology, et cetera, you have to have one-to-one express consent. All that means is on the lead form that the lead form says you are allowing, in this case, the DIG agency and its affiliates or its representatives to contact you via automated means, blah, 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 text message, blah, 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 about this particular product. And then they consent. It's at the end of every lead form that you get the lead from. It's nothing like of a big deal if you're using leads that you're self-generating on their own. Where this one-to-one consent rule hits is that the most call centers, the way they've operated is they've bought really cheap lead data for pennies on the dollar. And it's always questionable if they actually signed up for this stuff or not. They sent that data to the Philippines or Pakistan or India, and they had dialers call this data, just run through it really hard to then live transfer that information over to a live agent in the States to then qualify and close on a final expense plan. Essentially, it's like taking the phone book and then dialing it. That's how a lot of these strategies existed. But the reality is now, according to the way the rule is listed, is that you cannot do that anymore. You cannot, with a power dialer, meaning multiple lines dialing at a time, call on somebody who didn't expressly consent and agree for you to call them. Okay. So why is all this important? Why should you care? Because you have to take consideration into how you lead generate from the beginning and how to arrange yourself to set it up to where it can be successful. So my interpretation of this law, I'm going to show you like the options you can do as far as calling now for leads, of course, where you can get the leads to from as well. But the way that you can work data, cheap leads, the only way you can do it is if you manual dial. Okay. That means literally pounding numbers on the phone or using a single line dialer in some cases because it's one dialer at a time. Some organizations do this where you're painstakingly calling through a bunch of numbers, listening to voicemails, having very few phone conversations a day. It is a strategy that does work. It's not very effective. It's not something that I would say you should do as an agent, much less recruit agents too. Again, it allows you to keep your lead costs low because you can buy data still, but your agents aren't going to get top end levels of activity to generate leads and to generate prospects in business. So that's one strategy. Now, what we're doing and what I recommend is to, instead of buying the data for leads, in order to maximize the technology out there that allows you to dial through a ton of leads, to talk to a lot of prospects every day, is to first is really to generate your own leads or to have somebody do it for you, like a management program where the leads on the consent form can be dialed in so that you have express written consent to contact that person under any circumstance that you want. The challenge with this is that it is a higher expense. If you're going to go onto a platform, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, other social media platforms, there's going to be, of course, a cost that you have to acquire in order to generate the leads. And it typically costs more than just buying data. But what we have discovered, because we have done this from the beginning of the big agency, everything we've done ever, besides a few tests with third-party solutions, is an internal program or some managed program where we control the marketing assets. But what we've discovered is that the CPAs, the cost per acquisition, are way lower than what we see our competitors do. I've asked some around, and it's incredible how low they are. Meaning it costs us a lot less to acquire a client than many of our competitors do because of how we built the system in the beginning. And then on top of that, we have the ability to stay compliant and above board with meeting these TCPA one-to-one requirements. So the other option you have, of course, is you can go buy leads per lead. But every time we've done that, we've been sorely surprised in a bad way that the lead quality just doesn't measure up to what we have done internally building up our own lead marketing strategy. There's a lot to be said about leads. Like some leads are better than others. Some people think no, a lead is a lead is a lead. And, you always want to challenge your beliefs. And I used to think there was such a thing as a better lead. And then over time, I kind of questioned that. But what I've realized is that there is such a thing as a better lead. And many times it's a lead that's more expensive, assuming it's generated the correct way. Many times the CPAs, which is the actual thing you should be concerned about, how much does it cost to get a sale, are a lot less than, say, a cheap lead where barely anybody wants to buy. But the conversion is lower. So the CPA, the cost to sell is higher. I'll give you a perfect example. We tested out a lead where we spent $1,000 and we got one sale. And the average cost per lead was like $4 or $5, which is probably double. I'm sorry. No, it's the good leads that we use are triple to quadruple the price. And these are all generated on Facebook. And the cost per acquisition is way lower, way lower than that. So what's the takeaway here? If at all possible in building your agency, the best thing you can do is look at lead management programs, especially if getting started and you don't have the marketing knowledge. You need to work with a professional that understands how to market, how to get you leads, and then will do all the brain work in setting all this stuff up. Because running an agency, you're going to need to find good people. You're going to need to train them, recruit them, deal with them, all that stuff, right? So a marketing solution is a great idea in order to avoid that problem, or do it yourself if you're really good at it. But I would not don't recommend at this state in the leads game to fall into the buy the cheap leads routine or buy the age data, which is also cheap leads. It's not going to work nearly as effectively. And I argue it wouldn't work that well anyway. So questions about any of this, you're welcome to raise your hand or you can throw it in the chat. I'll answer some questions. Who would you recommend to help agencies set up a lead generation system? More on that in a moment. You may be pleasantly surprised how we can help. Darren, hey, how does one-to-one apply to every type of insurance? So the way the ruling read is that I'm spitballing here. Don't quote me. All right. Talk to your lawyer. Essentially says like the consent has to be explicit and relevant, meaning like you can't get a lead for life insurance and then flip them and sell solar. Okay. Like the lead has to match the intent of what it is that you're selling. Okay. So, there's some gray area there. So what if I develop them for final expense, but then sell them Medicare? I don't know. Not really many people doing that, but maybe you'll cross sell something. So I think something like that, again, I'm not a lawyer, talk to your lawyer. This is just me thinking, take it for what it's worth. I think something like that is acceptable. But I would try to lead with the thing that you consented to. And then if they want something else, something else. Right. Okay. Wonderful. So far, so good, everybody. Hopefully this information is useful. Life-changing. Could be. All right. Yeah. And then the last thing too, I think too, the ultimate goal you should have is to develop your leads internally. Have a team dedicated to lead generation that will do the work, that you can teach how to do things, that can manage it for you, that you control. But that's expensive. There's an operating cost to hiring people that have the brain power. And at some point, depending on the spend, it's better to just work with a trusted partner, in my opinion. All right. Okay. So last on the list here, and very important, of course, now that we're past that, is hiring. Now, I say hiring loosely. We could be recruiting 1099 agents, independent agents. The idea, though, is how do you find good talent? This is really imperative to understand, because you need people to sell this stuff. You can have great products, you can have great leads, but if you don't have good people that show up and sell, again, you're out of business. So it's imperative. That's the key word today, imperative. It's imperative to know where to find good people, how to retain them, and then put them in a position to win. Okay, so a lot to talk about this. So let's go into some takeaways I've seen since I've been running a business. So let me tell you the things that have not worked. I think that's useful to know. So the one thing that really hasn't worked for us is I don't even know how to spell this. I think I'm right here. I'm not Italian. The spaghetti method. What's the spaghetti method? Hello, Mr. Agent. You have a pulse. You're hired. Not a good strategy for life. Not a good strategy for building your agency. Why? Because guess what? Ain't everybody born a salesperson or can be told or trained to be a salesperson. I mean, there's like a 95% failure rate in this business. We all like to blame the MLMs and all that stuff, and they have some blame for sure. But some people just suck at this. Listen, I'm sorry. It's just the truth. And they won't know they're not that good. But you have to develop a system that will, help filter out those people. Again, they may be good somewhere else, but maybe not your system. So it's really important to figure out like who is a good like avatar or profile of an agent that would work in your system. And then to try to search through your agents, your agent recruits, potential recruits, to find them. Okay. And I'll give you an example of some stories. So we actually, again, everything I teach, like I've done, and I know why it doesn't work firsthand. We did the spaghetti method at some point several times. I always like to say, you can make mistakes, but only once. Like if you can make them one time and learn from them, you might have a chance of real success in business. But if you keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again, it's a problem. So we used to recruit way back in the day agents, and we would recruit them and say, hey, buy leads when you're ready, right? Just go ahead and sign my contracts, right? Get appointed and start selling. I had lots of people joining, man, tons of people every month. It was great. Very good ego stroke. But guess what happened? A lot of them would come to training, soak it up and say how wonderful it was. But guess what they wouldn't do? Pick up the phone, knock on a door, the stuff that actually separates the wheat from the chaff, right? The boys from the men. And it was very frustrating. And, I could have filtered those people out from the beginning if I knew what I was doing and if I knew what I know now. And so if you recruit open-ended, you're going to get a lot more admin burden. So dealing with contracting, dealing with questions that they have, getting onboarded, training time, et cetera. Like there's a lot of just burden that you'll carry and your staff will carry for people that will never sell anything. And to some extent, the complete spaghetti method is just doesn't work. The other real issue, especially in the life insurance space, you got to be worried about is there's a lot of fraud that goes on. This is a big deal in the COVID years, like I would say 21 to 23. When you recruit an agent, you co-sign their debt on any chargeback. So if they don't pay it, you pay it. That's just how it all works. Well, the reality is there are some people out there that literally wrote a bunch of fake business, had an advance amount of 25 to 50,000, and then let it roll up to their upline. I've been hit like that several times. And if you don't scrutinize, and I know this sounds like common sense, but it didn't at the time. If you don't scrutinize your recruits and qualify them, you're more likely to end up not just with the admin burden of a bunch of people who never do anything, but also the financial risk of getting a roll up from a couple of really bad agents a year. I know somebody in this space, and this is extreme space, that got hit for $250,000. He had to pay out of pocket $250,000 for fake business that he did not consummate. The worst I heard was an agent in a different agency that ran a scam for a year, faked like 400 applications, got away with it. The carrier didn't catch it. And this one dude was on the hook for $1 million in chargebacks. Now, I think he didn't have to pay it because the feds got involved at that point. This guy's in prison for 10 to 20 years now. But my point is like, this is a real risk that you have to worry about. And so I'm not trying to scare you out of recruiting. I'm just trying to scare you into like trusting, but cut the cards, especially up front. Okay. When it comes to the processes that matter. So what does work when it comes to recruiting? So I like the process called the velvet rope. All right. What's a velvet rope? We all know what velvet ropes are. So if you go to a club, the most popular club in town that everybody wants to be at, I wouldn't know. I'm pretty boring. I don't really do much outside of the house. But anyways, this is what I hear. Go to one of these clubs and, not just anybody can get in. There's the velvet rope and a couple of big bouncers in the way, right? Only certain people get in. Only the select few get in. Well, the way, the human condition works is you always want the thing you can't have, right? Or you want the thing that's difficult to get. If it's too easy to get the thing, you kind of wonder what's the catch, right? You want there to be a tussle, right? And so when we use, with a reference of the velvet rope strategy, is you don't want to just take everybody on. In fact, you want to use strategies that convey to the people who are your prospects to recruit that we don't take everybody, that just because you want to join doesn't mean we're going to allow it. And this doesn't mean you have to be rude about it or anything. You just let them know. We're very particular about who we bring on because, and we tell this in our marketing, because we want to make sure we're working with people that we feel are a good match for our company and have the best chances of success. Right there, you completely differentiate yourself from the average multi-level marketing agency that sells blue sky and tells you can make $1 million in 30 seconds selling life insurance, and wants you to sign the dotted line if you've got a pulse. And by doing that, for the people who are discerning, the people that, are concerned about doing well and kind of see there's something stinky about the MLM side of the business, they will like that. People will want to, the better people want to be a part of an organization that doesn't just let anybody in. Okay. So when it comes to the action, what does this actually look like when you are employing the velvet rope strategy? Well, first of all, you make somebody actually apply. Like if you guys go to my website, you have to fill out an application. It's not short, but it's not long. It's somewhere in between. We want to see if somebody's going to sit there and fill it out. There's a section there that says, tell us why we should recruit you over somebody else. I want somebody to sell me. If you can't sell the boss on why you should be working with us, how are you going to sell the old lady on the phone you're trying to sell insurance to? Right? So, that's a way for us to see, does this person actually care to try to convince us, ergo sell us on being a part of the organization? Because if you can't sell here, how can you sell later? Right? We also do personality tests. Write this down. Very, very good personality test. I really like. It's called the DISC personality test. You can get these for free online if you kind of do some Google searching. These, if you've worked with me, you've known that you've had to do DISC personality tests. These are very good at identifying the better candidates and the candidates that aren't a good fit. We've used one for about a year. it is pretty accurate. It tells us we know who's a good type of candidate, typically somebody with high D. That's high. I forget what D means, but essentially people that are assertive and will work hard and aren't afraid to ask for the sale. And then usually a high I or a high S, mid-range S, but high I is good as well. And so we kind of crafted an idea who's a good fit based off of looking at all these, running tests, looking at our current successful agents and seeing who's a good fit. That helps you identify if you're kind of on the fence with somebody. We've also at times, and this is always a good tactic to use in the beginning, interviews, role playing with the agent, seeing how they handle a script, not telling them they're going to come and role play, but putting them on the spot, asking them to read a script, and then giving them some feedback and then trying it again. That's something we've used here and there. Very good at saying, does this person, how do they operate in the moment? How do they sound? What's their tonality like, et cetera? One of the takeaways here, as we kind of round this part of this up, one of the takeaways with this, the hiring process, this is kind of my operating principle now. I am less concerned as much as I want to be. I'm less concerned about finding the best candidates, and I'm more concerned about finding I'm more concerned about ridding myself of the worst candidates. Okay, so here's what I mean. I don't know if in sales, if I can tell if somebody's going to be a stud, a top producer from an interview or from a disc assessment, et cetera. A lot of people, everybody's on their best behavior for an interview, right? They're going to sound as good as they can. The only way to really tell if somebody's going to do well is put them on the phone and start teaching them to sell. Get them on the phone and start selling as quickly as humanly possible. Where the rubber meets the road. I'm not saying you don't train in the meantime and do all the important stuff, absolutely important. But where you're really going to find out if they're any good is by getting them on the phone, okay? Seeing if they're going to actually sell. So I don't really look for, in my current strategy to recruit, the top producers. I just don't know. I've given the struggle up. But what I do know is what an inappropriate producer looks like, somebody who's not a good fit. And so our guidelines on the front end and selecting candidates is looking at certain data points between the DISC personality assessment, an interview if we do it, and then also their application. This is there anything about this that's off-putting that shows us this is an agent that's probably not a good fit? And so we're looking for the ones that we're like pretty sure. And there are those out there. There are a lot in the middle, but we want to rid ourselves of people who just, it's not a good fit. Is it mean? Sure. But you know what? We run a business. We don't want to waste people's time. And that's how I explain it to people that we turn down. We know it works and we know it doesn't work. Which is really the point I'm trying to make. Okay. Let's see here. Questions about recruiting. Questions about anything so far. Again, recruiting, hiring practices, lead generation. It's a good opportunity to kind of open mic Q&A. We'll kind of turn this into an open mic Q&A. And then I'm going to go over kind of some exciting new opportunities on the agency building side that I'm offering, along with lead generation as well, once we're kind of rounding down the Q&A. So a good time to raise your hand if you can, or toss your question in the chat. What DISC service provider do you use? Hey, Darren. Look, just put in like free DISC personality assessment and it will show up on the Googles somewhere, and just use something like that. Okay. Candace. Hey, Candace. Do you check their credit? Any signs of fraud? Well, a recording of this we sent. Yeah, I'll send it out, Candace. I'll once this is done, we'll blast it to everybody that was on the list. Do I check credit? No, I don't. I don't know. You could do that. The thing is, the carriers will eliminate a candidate if the credit is so terrible that, you can't get them appointed. But the reality is, like, 1 out of 4 people have bankruptcy history. People have hard times, and it's a hard judgment. I don't have it really just comes down to a gut feel, you know. So, but you can do credit checks. That's completely fine. If you feel like you need it. It's just something we've never really tested. Well, okay, yeah. Hey, Melvin, do you set limits on the number of applicants you'll bring in at one time? I don't. But I am in a unique environment where I'm continuously getting applications. We get about 150 to 200 a month, and it's a 1099 straight commission opportunity. Like some people make it, some people don't. So we facilitate that as much as possible, and we bring it on. We have the capacity to handle way more agents than we currently have. If anything, our bottleneck in our business is recruiting. Even though we get so many applications, we could take on 500 a month of applications and then qualify and recruit that way. But anyways, we don't limit it, but you could limit it. It kind of depends, right? I mean, again, we're virtual. People come in. There's a lot of self-sufficiency the agent has. They're not going to show up physically to a class. So if you're running an actual brick and mortar call center, it may be smarter to bring in 10 people at once, train them for that onboarding gauntlet week, and then put them on the phones, kind of have a set strategy. So it's going to depend on how your operation is run. You're welcome, Candace. Thanks, Guy. Appreciate it. What happens if you're a C? You're me. I'm extremely high C. I think that's like cautious or contemplative or thoughtful. You can look up what it means. I'm a very high D, which is assertive and demanding is not the word. That's what I keep thinking when I see it. It's like I don't know, like wants to get stuff done. But I'm also a high C, which is contemplative thinking. So usually not a good salesperson. I promise I was back in the day. But yeah. Laura, hey, how long does it usually take to have my license reassigned to your company? Oh, couple. I mean, your license doesn't get reassigned. Your license isn't assigned anywhere. That's probably terminology. If they use that on you, they use that to make you think that you're stuck with them. Your license is yours, just like a hairdresser's or a nurse's is. That's their license. The hairdresser shop or the hospital doesn't possess the license, right? It's yours. So the question becomes, well, how long can I get contracted? How long until I'm sales ready to work with the big agency? Typically a week or two. That's kind of what we're looking at. And within that time that your carrier appointments are going through, you train, you onboard, you get used to the process. Hey, Doug, do you hire a 1099 or offer a small base salary with commission? So yeah, I've always done 1099 work. The reason I do 1099 work is because it's a cost control mechanism. I don't pay for work until the person performs. So that means I don't have a labor cost that I front while the person is working. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It does. It's less, I don't know why, but a lot of life shops don't do salary plus commission, although there are some that do. But for me, again, it is possibly because of my situation with being an influencer in the space and people already know, like, and trusting me. We can do things that are unusual, one of which is maybe a 1099 position that's straight comp. But again, free leads provided is kind of what we do. But yeah, you could mess with it. I know a lot of like Medicare companies will pay, depending on the part of the country, 12 to 15 an hour. Could you get away with that in California? I don't know, but like the Southeast, you could. And then a bonus per app or a small commission bonus. So just depends. For us, Laura, it's about 2 weeks is what we look at, kind of recommend. It can be lower than that, depending on how long you get going. Dominance. Okay, dominance. All right. Excellent. Any more questions here? Happy to field them about agency building. Has this been useful so far? Do you like what you've heard? I hope so. My goal is always to provide some information that actually makes a difference and is useful. Okay, cool. So let me go in and pitch you now on what it is that we're doing. Some of this may make sense to you, some of it won't. But either way, at least y'all know. Y'all are the first to hear about this too, by the way, so be super excited. So the reason I put this training together, other than training you out of the goodness of my own heart, wanting to be helpful, is also to introduce a new program that we're doing at the Dig Agency. We historically have done just recruiting and bringing agents on currently to our final expense free lead system. But I've spent the last year really living the call center type of agency model, not to mention the last 10 years prior to that, recruiting agents into my brokerage where they buy leads and run their own business. So I have a lot of experience, and I'm excited to announce that I'm now building a business model into the agency building space and also the lead generation space, all specifically designed to help those people who want to do agency building become successful without blowing a bunch of money like I did, figuring out what works. So who is this offer for? So if you are somebody who is interested in building a life insurance business, probably final expense, but we're kind of broadening it a little bit, life insurance, but final expense would be the best. And you think mentorship and coaching is crucial, and you understand like there's a lot that goes on in this business and you don't want to make mistakes like I did, then this opportunity is for you. So this is really like built for the experienced agent or the already working agency owner. This isn't an offer for those of you who are brand new. Like if you're just getting started, you want to sell insurance, again, you're welcome to listen to this, but this is not for you. Unless you came from an avenue where you already had a call center and you're looking to duplicate the process. But this is really for the person who is successful to some degree selling some kind of insurance and wants to take the next level in their career, building their own agency, creating some sort of passive income and leveling up their income altogether. And most importantly, wanting to do this with somebody who actually has done what it is they teach. Okay, hard to find these days, but I have actually done what it is that you've done. And again, what do I mean by that? Last year, we wrote north of $15 million in life insurance as an agency, when that's free leads plus brokers plus downline agencies tied together, mostly final expense. Our best month on the free lead business was 1.05 million back in, I think, October. And we started from zero in November 2023. So we went from 0 to 1 million plus in basically a 12-month period of time. And along the way, we have learned a ton about how to operate a business successfully, and are excited, for those of you who it's a match for, it's a good fit for, to teach you how to do the same. So let's take a look at what comes with this. What are you going to learn? What are we going to teach you? So by partnering with me, we're going to teach you how to recruit. So recruiting is really important. You got to learn how to recruit. What do you say to these people? How do you get them interested in working with you versus the others? You obviously got to find a place to get these people. We're going to show you how to do it right away. The more people you have looking at your opportunity, the more opportunity you have to actually bring them into your agency. The next thing we're going to teach you is our qualifying system and onboarding system. So what do I mean by that? So as you bring people into your business, it's very important that you streamline them into the process of getting contracted. It's very important that you streamline them into the process of getting trained. We know what works. We have been doing this for many, many years now, and we can show you a system that can predictably train agents largely on their own if that's what you desire, as well as onboard them without needing staff members paid full-time in order to babysit, or your own time babysitting them going through this process. So we'll teach you how to do that. Again, we've done that many, many times very successfully. Also, we're going to teach you how to, again, do training. We talked about that. Let's see what else here. Oh, this is very, very important. Our sales system. Our sales system that we've designed, and it's based around leads, the call cadence, sequencing, et cetera. we're able to have a close rate on these that is 250% to 300% higher than what you're seeing from an individual broker agent. You would be shocked at how many of the leads that we buy that we actually close. I'll put it this way. It's a good agent closes 5% of their leads. We're like close to triple that. Okay. And that's telesales. Usually telesales close rates much lower than that. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because we have developed a very unique system to get quality leads that are more likely to buy. We've created a quality system to sell these leads in such a way over time that you approach this dramatically very high close rate that just beats the pants off of what you would expect even as an independent agent on your own. And what that means for you as you learn this is that you're able to cash flow more. And that's especially in the free lead call center environment where you're providing this. Cash is king in this business. You'll find that out if you're ever going to get involved in the business of running a call center, virtual, in person. Cash flow is king. You have to have cash on hand. And this system we can teach you will help incredibly increase your close rates and stay profitable month to month. Moving on here. Let me find my notes. Oh, also very important. You got to build a retention system. And what do I mean by that? So it's not just selling it that matters. It's also you got to retain it, right? The policy that stays is a policy that pays. Okay. So we have figured out how to eliminate retention from our agents. So they just sit and sell. That's our mantra: sit and sell, sit and sell. And we have a team that's dedicated specifically to retaining the policies, getting them back on the books if they missed payments, or if they can't do it, sending them back into the cycle to be resold on another policy, sometimes with another company. But this way we maximize our retention and get more results as far as profitability goes and keeping people on the books. Other things that we can do as a partner in the Dig Agency, agency builders, is CRM. We have built out a CRM. We can get you access to that CRM. You don't have to build your own. It's specifically built on the final expense model. That is, so if you're doing something else, final expense may be a little different. But for the final expense side, we know what works for the CRM. We've built it out. We can get you access to it. And then basically what you're getting, of course, is all said and done, is the blueprint to success. We wrote like 6,500 pieces of business for around $6 million in AP, annualized premium, in our first 12-month period in the free leads program. And then that's on top of the other 10 million for brokers. We know it works. Okay. And we're going to give you the blueprint. We're going to show you what to do, how it works, and how to get great and amazing results. Again, it's very easy to make mistakes. There have been, again, several high-profile free lead companies that have shut down recently because they didn't have one of these, typically one of these systems here set in, which is leads. We can show you how to do leads. To answer the question, I think Mr. Mooney asked, we're gonna offer a lead management system so that we can help manage your leads for you using the same strategy and process that we've done to develop leads that have really incredible CPAs. So that's there too. All right, make sure I hit everything here. A couple other things we're going to offer: bi-monthly Zoom consults. I'm going to be personally involved with this new initiative. We really want to bring on, my goal is to bring on 10 actual agencies that want to build and grow something and then help them become multi-million-dollar agencies over the next 2 to 5 years. That's my timeline. That's what I want to accomplish. And so part of that process is I'm going to avail myself to regular Zoom meetings to talk strategy, show you what we're doing, answer your questions, et cetera. Top contracts from the start. So the idea behind here is that because you're experienced and because we're selecting serious people, we're not going to play games. The contracts are going to be the very best of the best that we can get you. So that way you have the margin built in so that you can make money off of running your agency successfully. And again, can't stress enough, you're going to get hands-on help from me. That's my goal. Why am I doing this? You may be wondering, like, why not continue the process of running your free lead agency if it's so successful? Why are you doing this? Well, I can tell you this. One of the things that's been kind of surprising is the free lead agency works so well that I'm very rarely involved very much on a daily basis. We've created an incredible system. I have key people in positions to do their roles successfully. And the business runs not on auto drive, but pretty close to it. And so I now have this time to help others. And I've realized an opportunity with the lessons learned that there's other of you out there that want to build, but you don't know where to start. You have a million questions. And so that avails me an opportunity to work with you. Also, I love talking agency building. This is between me and you. I'm like super excited to talk about building an agency. It's because it's where my head's been the last couple of years very closely. So I love talking about it. It's just a lot of fun. And it's something that I'm super excited to help with. I'm just a naturally the person that desires to help and assist. And I love seeing people be successful. So this is kind of like the thing for me now at the stage of my career. And the last thing too is, to be honest with you, I want to sell. One day I want to sell my business, probably in the next 5+ years is what I'm thinking. And my thinking is, well, if I can take people who are wanting to build and then grow a business through them, help grow my business incidentally, that's going to help me sell. And likewise, you may not even be thinking about this, but I've talked to a few of you that are on here. I see some of you recognize it. The market is ripe for opportunities to sell agencies. There's a lot of private equity money in the space that's looking to buy really good agencies that are profitable. And you should be thinking, this is one of the tenets we teach with my agency builders, you should be thinking about exiting. You should be thinking not just how to build an agency that makes you a good bit of money, but you should be thinking about how can you get out of the business with a 7 to 8 figure payday. There's lots of agencies that have done this. And if you're intelligent and thorough and further thinking than just making a quick buck, I can show you the processes to get this. We have contacts in the business. It is something that is I'm pursuing and would love to have you pursue if that is of interest to you. Of course, you don't want to sell. That's completely fine. All right. So what's the catch? If I'm talking about all this great stuff, what's the catch? So again, why would I want to teach this? It's because if I teach you the ropes and how to do this stuff, then the goal is get your business placed through me. So you put your agency business with me or your life insurance carrier business with me. Those go directly to me, and then I make an override off of it. And my idea again is like, man, if I can get 10 $2 million a year agencies up and running by the end of the year, and I make a spread off of that, that's a pretty good amount of money. So my goal is to facilitate that because that's very simple to do. 1 to 2 million a year is not very difficult as long as you have a strategy in place. And but you got to do your business with me. That's the catch. This isn't for new agents. Again, I can't express that enough. You have to have success, experience, some money as well. Like a lot of the stuff isn't free. I did kind of work through things and, started off with a low cost approach to the business model that can work. But usually, especially if you're in the free interest is in the free lead model, you got to put out money. So if you're coming into this and you don't have a lot of money to invest because you're building your business, you better have some capital. This isn't for you. Of course, I can show you how to find capital, how to find ways to get financing. If you're really interested and you're open-minded to that, there's some ideas that can be useful for you too that I can share with you. And again, we're probably going to need some kind of multi-year commitment from you in working with me. Again, I'm not doing this to like give you the farm and then you to leave in 6 months. Like, why would I do that? I want some level of long-term commitment from the people I teach so that the partnership there is there on a lasting basis, not on a fleeting basis. And I would hope you understand why. So there's going to be some kind of multi-year agreement to work exclusively with me. And I would hope you would welcome that, because if you're serious about this business, then it's going to take that long at least. Okay. So what I'm going to share here with you, so what's the next step? If you like what you've heard and you think, maybe this might be cool, this might be something I'm interested in, and you want to talk to me personally, I'm going to throw into the chat my Calendly link. All right. So this is for, now listen up. Don't book a call to talk about joining my agency with me. Please don't do that. I have staff that does that. That is not the purpose of this call. So please don't do that. Okay. Fair. So book this if you are actually interested, in building an agency. Okay. You'll see it in the chat. I've got some time tomorrow and early next week. And then I'm out for half the week in Phoenix. But I'd love to talk to you. If you're thinking about this, you fit my criteria of what it is that I'm looking for in an agency partner. Yes, if you're beginning to sell and you don't have call center ownership experience or management experience, yeah, this is not for you. Be 100% clear. Only book an appointment with me if you want to build an agency and you've had some success in this business. And what I mean by success, you know what I'm talking about. Success, like it's like it just didn't get started, right? See, so hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to open this up for questions. So if you have questions, you can ask, and you can raise your hand, or you can throw your question in the chat. I'm going to start back by scrolling up a little bit. I'm also going to give you the chance to unmute yourself. So again, if you would like to book a time, just use that convenient link in the chat, and I'll be happy to do it. There's a way to unmute you people. Just raise your hand if you want to talk. Sorry. All right. Derek, what do you think your retention rate is with final expense? Or more important, clients that stay on board long enough to avoid chargebacks? 75 to 80% probably. It just depends on the carrier. Some are better than others. But then, retention, it really comes down to how you sell the product, which companies you use. And it's not so much about competitiveness as much as it is about billing proficiency. But a persistency of a call center at 75% is good. You can make the numbers work in your favor, right? And again, here's the thing. Persistency matters, but there's a lot of other factors in play that also matter, like what product you choose, how billing works, how your commissions are set up for your agent. So what's the profit after the marketing costs? What's your CPAs, your cost per acquisition, cost per sale? What's your labor costs? How's your operational costs look? So persistency makes an impact on the revenue that you receive. And we obviously want to keep it as high as possible. But likewise, we also want to manage these other things. And moving the levers on some of these other things may be more possible to get better results of than trying to go from a 75 to an 85% persistency. At some point, there's a good enough persistency. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. See you, Susan. Is CRM agent CRM? No. No, I have created my own internal dig agency CRM that we're about to roll out to the retail market to either agency owners or individual owners. The main or individual agents even that aren't even a part of the dig agency. So you don't even have to work with us to get our CRM. You don't even have to work with us to get our agent CRM. So why do that? Real quick, because it's a CRM that an actual final expense company uses. It's called the final expense CRM. We're going to have more information about this in a couple of weeks. But the pitch is you're going to use a CRM that we actually use in our CRM or in our business. So we've designed it with the final expense agent in mind when it comes to its effectiveness, how it works, et cetera. It's not designed to be a generic CRM. It's designed specifically for the final expense agent. And it's got us working it, tweaking it, improving it behind its creation. So from the standpoint of an actual working call center of final expense agents. So we like to think that it's more specific and designed better for the final expense-based agent, more so than any other CRM that's out there. What percentage of top line do you set aside for chargebacks and risk buffers? That goes with the persistency. I mean, we factor in, and it really depends, depends on the carriers. It depends on products. But if you're controlling the distribution, you're training them well, there should be some number you factor out with math on what amount is going to charge back. And then you should run your numbers or run your business based off of those numbers about what projected net income would look like if there was a given persistency. With that said, if you're always writing business, you're always going to have people covering the chargeback expenses. So if you're an LOA, what'll happen is you dole out the commissions. A line of authority agency is what I mean. So all commissions come to you, and then you distribute them to the agents. That's typically how a free lead organization works. If you're a broker, not necessarily. If you're a brokerage-based agency with independent agents, then they'll get paid direct from the carrier and you make the spread. But I don't really have a number in mind. I always made sure to carry extra cash on hand, always have extra cash on hand, and always make sure agents are writing business. And more importantly, or just as important, don't have a wide swath of carriers. This is a very big mistake I made throughout my career, is thinking that agents need to have 10 carriers. They don't. What you need to do, and in order to control for roll-up risk and chargeback risk, is have a small selection of core carriers, preferably that will satisfy your goals of building a better renewal base for your company. A lot of these carriers won't do that. They have poor renewals and bad chargeback provisions. You want to avoid those as an agency owner. So a smaller pool of selection, so that agents can't run around and write a bunch of business. Like I have one agent right now that has 10,000 in chargebacks between 5 companies, but we probably would have controlled him or her much better if it was like 3 companies and would have stopped that. So, and then also the other thing to do is to be very mindful of your daily production and watch it like a hawk, especially if you hire independent agents. And if somebody out of the blue starts writing a lot of business, you need to investigate that. And we have tools, spreadsheets that as long as you upload the production statements, you can monitor to see where your production is coming from, and therefore track those agents who are doing well, but also those agents that you're questioning the business that they're writing. It's definitely something we can help you with. Hey, Zygmunt, you're welcome. See you later. Any commentary for bilingual Spanish agencies? Commentary? None. I mean, there's markets that there's people and agencies that do that. I don't, because I speak English. But the other side of it is, you can create ads on Facebook that target that particular market. I tend to think that the price point is higher per lead, but then CPA might be a lot lower if you're one of the few people that can actually sell it. So just depends. There's no investment. What carriers use? Yeah, so we use the ones that we deploy, and I would have you, and here's the thing, I would have, and I can sit down and explain this to you why, if you're concerned. We'd predominantly use American Amicable and then American Home Life. Why? Because they have very good products that bill correctly, that are reasonably priced, and have very good renewal streams. And you need to be building renewal streams. Again, this is a big mistake I did. I just always picked the hot product that everybody was talking about in the space, thinking like that's how you recruit agents, is just off of a product. Well, no, you recruit agents. The good agents want the system. They want the good leads that actually pick up the phone and buy. They want the sales training that actually makes a difference. If one of the biggest mistakes new agency owners go into is they think they got to push, that the only differentiator is a contract for a product. And like, it's not a lasting way to do business, in my opinion. And then a lot of these products out there now, they charge you back for the first 4 months or 3 months of commissions on sales that you made. So if they lapse 3 months, then you pay back the full 9 month chargeback. Some of them pay very terrible renewals. The renewals aren't very good. And other issues, right? I like these 2 carriers because they're not perfect. There's other carriers that do things better, but the renewals are very strong. They're generally simple to write, and you can cover 80% of your prospects very easily just with those 2 companies. So that's what we would look at if you join my agency. is working with those. And we have other ones too. We use other ones in our carriers, but honestly, my objective is to we pay less on those carriers because we don't want people writing them. We want them to write the better carriers that we know will serve everybody's interest better. To save David time, bilingual agencies will be able to achieve success even faster. So, okay, catching up with the questions here. You're welcome. Thanks, Leland. Hey, Bill, we do a lot of Medicare, both Advantage and supplements, but very little final expense. What do we have? No, you don't have to move the Medicare contracts. No. I would like to talk to you if you're interested, Bill. It may or may not be a match. It depends kind of how you want to run your agency. I know I'm talking to a few Medicare agencies now. They're concerned about the SCP rules changing for Medicare Advantage, I think in April. But yeah, it is something we can definitely talk about. And we would just specifically look at the final expense. You can close people in Spanish. Of course you can. Yeah, American Home Life and an American Amicable. Those are the ones we really like agents using. We like them a lot. All right, questions. Any last questions here before we wrap things up? I'll give you guys a moment and then we'll call it a day. There it is. Yeah, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, you can. I just figured out how to make that work. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I'll toss that link again in the chat. If you guys want to get on the schedule, click the link below. Got to change these hotkeys. And you'll be happy to. It depends, Rick. We need to talk. I mean, there's a lot of specificity. If you're really serious about agency building, just book a time. And then I'll be able to say, yeah, here's kind of what you can expect financially. Here's kind of the outlay. It's going to be an outlay. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a ton of money, but it is something that, depending on the style of system you're on, you're going to have some kind of outlay. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here again. Feel free to book a time if you'd like to on the Calendly link that I provided. If you think that this is something that you're serious about, don't book a time to talk me up joining the agency. Please, please, please. Very limited in time. Just come to the Q&A call there. So, okay. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good rest of your Thursday. See you next time. And I'll send this recording out so you guys can watch it later. Bye.